I usually don't make these videos, nor do I comment about such kind of news, especially because it's controversial. And I do like controversial news stories and everything, but this one's kind of been overdone. And yeah, so we all know EA just recently had a terrible week with their PR messages and everything. So they basically the loot box thing and everything. EA is looking really greedy. They have the most downvoted comment on Reddit history. And essentially, this is pretty bad for the company. The thing that you guys, like, everyone has to realize is that microtransactions are no fun. Like, there's a group of people that like them, and there's a group of people that just will use them just because they're there. And those kinds of people are like have tend to have addictive personalities. Like, this has been touched already by a lot of YouTubers, and essentially, since this has already infected the gaming industry, it's probably not gonna go away. It's always gonna be in some form nowadays, and that's just unfortunate. We have Nintendo with amiibos, and I never really liked amiibos just because of this. I like I guess, the action figures stuff and how they look and how you can buy them and just pose them and everything. It's just the fact that certain games like Mario Party, the last Mario Party, I can't remember if it was Mario Party 8. I think it was Mario Party 8. Had had a whole board that was inaccessible unless you had an amiibo. I never had an amiibo, and I basically never played the game. I bought it, and unfortunately, I never played it. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of hated the Wii U, because a lot of these amiibo things got in the way. And Nintendo didn't have many games, so putting these restrictions on games just made it far worse for most people, like for people like me. It was no fun. I hated like a lot of it. And personally, it's a bunch of companies. It's not just Nintendo. Pay to play games are here pretty much to stay, and it's unfortunate. We need to do something about it. And the best thing we can do is just not buy any of these transactions. Once you see a transaction in the game, you buy it. You're contributing to the system. And the best thing that you can do if you're against it is never buy microtransactions. I've never bought any microtransactions, even the ones I wanted to buy for like the Wii U. I just never bought them simply because first it was a hassle to do. I was overseas and just whipping out a credit card and charging and getting charged extra. I just didn't want to do that, unfortunately, and that's what ended up happening with my whole microtransaction history. I just never got into those games. Loot boxes are the same thing. I feel like it's a complete waste. I'm the same with gacha machines here in Japan. I'm I never like I did it once. I'm gonna admit I tried to buy some Adventure Time toys because I wanted a lemon grab as a joke for my girlfriend at the time, and it was impossible to get. Like, I spent like, each time you won the thing, it was like $2, and I kept getting the same Finn doll. Like, and I was like, yeah, screw this. By the third time, I felt like a complete idiot because it seemed like the machine was just full of fins. Although I don't think so, because I saw the figure. It was right there in one of the balls. It's just it was never gonna come out. I was just gonna get like 5 fins, and I gave up. And then before you know it, the machine was gone. The thing is with loot boxes, it's the same deal. The thing is, people are actually buying it. Like, I don't know who has such money to pay so much on games. Like, once you paid $60, if a game costs money, all these things like the loot boxes and stuff should be something in the game, in my opinion. I know games are expensive, but they're not this expensive, especially when they sell so well. Like, this is just a money grab by the companies to make instead of making hundreds of millions of dollars, they want to make billions of dollars, and it's a little bit greedy. They don't make the game more expensive. All they're doing is cutting away things from the game to maximize its profits. And it's really sleazy. Like, people are already catching on, and this is gonna die out. Like, I have no idea who in their right minds is going to continue doing this after like it gets so much bad publicity. There's going to be huge attacks. People are going to stop buying the games, and before you know it, we're going to have another gaming crash like in the 80s. And I don't think that's very far off, because this whole generation, like starting with the end of the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation, and the Wii U and stuff, like coming now all the way to this generation, it's been kind of all shitty since the beginning because of these microtransactions and all these things they've been doing with games. Like, I think most people would agree with this. Like, if depending on what system you own, you always felt like there was some sort of, it didn't feel complete. It didn't feel like it used to feel. It felt different. Something was off. And one of the things I think that has affected the industry so much has been this use of microtransactions that just aren't in any ways beneficial to any player. Some people may get more fun because like the argument goes that there's some things that people would never have tried, and they would have stopped playing the game long before if it wasn't for the microtransactions, simply because people don't have the time. But that's another topic upon itself, because like, there's also the other question of why don't people have time to play video games then? Like they must have be doing something else. Like there's the casual. This is more of a problem with casual gamers type and stuff. And casual gamers are always going to be there. There's always going to be a group of people that are never going to fully enjoy a game simply because they don't have the time. Those aren't the games for them. But video game companies have to realize that there's multiple groups of people with multiple different tastes. You can't always just try to sell things to one group, like say the casual gamer. Yeah, it may be the biggest market, but again, you do not just want to capitalize on your biggest market all the time. You should have consider the fact that you should release games for other players as well who would gratefully buy your game. They're not gonna just buy it; they're gonna rebuy it most likely a few years later, and then it's gonna keep going on and on. Whereas if you release some shitty game that you just drop in with tons of microtransactions, it's only at 10 things. You may make a lot of money now, but that game's not going to be valuable again in a few years, and you're going to have to make another game. The cost may say that's better for you to do, but overall, it may be a good way to run out of money or run out of ways to make money real fast. So you have to consider that as well. Like companies need to consider these business things as well. It's the same thing with Disney. Like when they originally were making movies, their main idea was to make masterpiece movies that they could continue to sell for years and years and years. And even to this day, they sell all those classic movies. They have theme parks now and stuff based on those movies, and simply because of what they've built around all their cartoons and stuff. That's why their IPs are so valuable. And Nintendo knows this. Nintendo's trying to do the exact same thing, but other companies, however, they're just pump and dump kind of things, and that's not always a good idea. It's a good idea to make quick money for some individuals, but a lot of people are not going to be making money, and then it's going to end the other thing, and that's something you do not want your cash flow to end just abruptly like that. It's good for, again, these games are always going to exist because of that, because there are some people that are just interested in the quick money now and they don't care about the future. Fine, but you can't, like each system, like each console and each console like producer owner or whatever needs to realize that they have to make some other games that people will be interested with. One of the reasons why I haven't been so excited with my PlayStation 4 and or even trying to get an Xbox One is simply because the games, like most of the games are great and all, but a lot of them are on different platforms, and if they're not, some of them are plagued with problems or plagued with microtransactions, and that's kind of shitty. The best system right now is the Nintendo Switch, in my opinion, just because they kind of tend to avoid this. But even if you just look at Super Mario Odyssey, there's a lot of transactions in the game, and it's kind of maybe a way for Nintendo to hint that they're going to try to do microtransactions more in the future, because they're trying to get people used to the idea of microtransactions, but not with actually you have to pay for anything at the moment. But in the future, you don't know. They might release another Super Mario Odyssey type game, but now you have to pay for some of the things that are included in the game. That could happen overnight. It would suck. So you have to be careful with those kinds of things. Yes, it's a good way to make extra money, but it's also a good way to ruin your whole reputation. And for companies like Nintendo, that would be completely devastating, I think. Because I don't know if their fan base will be able to support kind of them selling you just microtransactions for games, and then years later you can't play those games because you can't buy some of the things because the servers are down. Like, what's going to happen then? Like, that's not the Nintendo philosophy. But that seems to be the philosophy of other game studios, and that's why they're kind of becoming more and more shitty. Like, their reputation is just taking a nosedive since the early 90s, I would say. I used to think Activision was a good company, and nowadays they're just a really shitty company. And that goes the same with EA and all these other ones. Like, EA, I never thought was a good company, though, to be honest. Although it looked like a good company to work for and everything, I knew people that worked there. It never was a great company overall with game quality. Their games were always kind of shitty. So, like, this isn't surprising when they buy new studios, and it sucks that they do own the Star Wars, not the franchise, but the Star Wars, like, license at the moment, because they are releasing games without putting much consideration to how to make them, and they're putting a bunch of microtransactions into them, and that kind of sucks. So the gaming industry as it is today, I don't follow with this ideology of gaming. Like, I don't want to sit down and have to worry about the fact that I have to give them money after I bought the game. I just want to play a game to enjoy it, and I don't always want to play multiplayer. And this is the other sad casualty of this microtransaction movement that gaming industries are doing. It's the fact that there's barely any good single player games, and stories in single player games used to be fantastic. They're getting much better. Sometime in the 2000s, late 90s, and then they just kind of became predictable. And then nowadays, it's kind of there's no story. There's just multiplayer games and stuff, and there's no single player version of the game. You have to log on online to play most of them, and it kind of sucks. It's all just because it's a cash grab, and it could have been so much better. Like we could have had better games that we could play, but now they're all online. And online games are fun. I'm not gonna lie. I started playing online games back when 56K was still a thing. Like I played games on the Dreamcast and online. That was fantastic. I remember. And but nowadays, the whole thing has gotten out of control, in my opinion. I don't like how you have to log on online on consoles. Like you pay yearly so you can access a game's server online. And I know people argue constantly that you're paying so that that server can work because it's not free. But the real reality of it is I'm not paying to keep the server online. I'm paying Sony to give me access to the server, which is run by the company that made the game, which I'm paying by buying the game in the first place. They never see that money when I pay Sony for the rental. I don't. They if they see anything, it's very small compared to what I paid Sony for that access or Microsoft. It's really just some sort of cash grab for both of them, and that system really I don't think should exist. I think it's a little bit also greedy, and I that's why I never was much of an Xbox 360 Gold member when I had the chance. And I always was a PlayStation 3 fan because online was free, and if I wanted to play a game online there, it was easy to do. But I didn't want to do it so much on the Xbox 360. But nowadays, all systems charge you for online, and that's unfortunate too. And I think this is all part of this kind of sort of disease running through the gaming industry, where they're trying to get you. They're trying to they're trying to get all your money as soon as you start playing a game, and that really sucks. Like one of the places I don't want to stress out that I have to accidentally avoid a purchase is on my game console, and that's why I haven't bought a game console. I don't want to have it charge me. I don't want to have to pay for things online. I don't want to do any of those things. I just want to start my game, forget about the world, and play the game and just enjoy it. But I can't do that anymore, and that's why this whole generation, and it's getting worse year by year. We're in a situation where it's not the greatest it could be. However, that's not to say there's not great games out there. This recently, the way graphics and stuff are going, the games are really getting really awesome for a lot of them. Doom was one fine example of a really good game recently, and only time will tell if games will get better. But in my opinion, I'm slowly becoming more of a retro gamer because I don't have to worry about games in the past like I have to nowadays. It's becoming more stressful, and it's not what I want to do. I want to enjoy games. I want to buy them, and I don't want to think about them. And I want them to be complete is the most important part. Most games released nowadays aren't complete either. So that's why this whole EA thing is kind of interesting for me, because finally people are basically trying to attack a gaming company for or defending themselves against these microtransactions in this way that it's a pushback. EA has gone too far. Finally, some company has tipped it where people are realizing this is going way too far. This is the limit. I'm not willing to do this. We're not willing to pay you that much for this. And that's just perfect. That's great. I'm glad someone's already pushing back because this has gotten pretty out of hand. And if it continues to go in this route, it's just going to get worse for people. Hopefully this doesn't lead to EA just ignoring it and people constantly still buying microtransactions, which is usually the case, and I think it's what EA is hoping, that people would just forget about this this fit of drama that's going on and then just move back to buying microtransactions, and they're not going to care. They really have then no reason to care. This is so common with video game industry things, like whether it's with Call of Duty or whatever. People complain, but it's such a small group of people that complain that it seems like a huge crowd at first, but then it dies down and people still buy the game. People don't cancel their games, so it's fine. Let's just hope that the companies learned this time that there's a limit, that people aren't going to go or allow so much to happen. But again, only time will tell. I think that this is just something that's going to be around forever. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to change anymore, simply because it's a form of profit for companies. And once you buy a AAA game, it's just profits. Like, even the stories suffer. It's the same thing with movies. Like, if you go to some really popular movie, it's never that great. I mean, if you're the mind that you like certain types of movies and you like them to be, something that other than just mainstream garbage. Like, it's hard to tell you what I mean. I don't mean go buy the most artsy indie movie out there, because that's usually not my taste either. I just mean most stories are just they're the same as junk food for the most part. There's Most mainstream movies don't try to give you some competent story. They try to hit certain things in some formula algorithm that they have set up. They release that. Like, most Marvel movies are affected by this too. Like, I like some of them, but a lot of them are just, there's a formula they're following. There's not really a great story on it. There's nothing that's really going on. Maybe kids will like it, but if you've seen this story countless times, you're gonna want to see it again just with prettier graphics or something. Like, it gets boring after a while. And games are the same way. The mainstream AAA games all tend to be trying so hard to appease everyone. I mean, it's hard to say they don't appease anyone. They do appease a lot of people, but a lot of people that are looking for something deeper or something new or something better, or people that want to have a great experience. I mean, and they're gonna find out that it's lacking, especially if you play lots of games before. Like, it's not for everyone. That's definitely not for me. Like, that's why I much prefer retro games, because at the moment, anyways, because those games kind of tried a lot of times, especially when there was a generation leap and there was a change in graphics, whether it was between the NES going to the Super Nintendo, or even when the best switch, I think, was when games went from 2D graphics to 3D graphics. That the things people tried was amazing, and then recently with VR, I see this kind of thing happening again, but it's not the same because of the fact that the industry's just gotten so much trying to appease everyone and trying to make as much money by appeasing everyone as much as possible, but not really. Everyone will be pleased, but they won't be necessarily satisfied, or they won't think it's great. So that's where we are now. It just reaches a certain level where it's okay and adequate, and as long as everyone's happy, it's good. But it never gets to the point where it's just amazing, and that's just unfortunate. Anyways, guys, that's everything I want to talk about in this video. If you have any comments, if you think I'm crazy or if I forgot something, just let me know. I'm always good to chat, just whatever. Anyways, guys, I'm signing out. Take care. Have a good day. Bye bye.